Sofia Coppola for Lost in Translation.
Well, I mean, I think it's different for everyone, but I hope that it, takes you away for 2 hours. But when people tell me afterwards that they've had, an emotional experience, and I feel like a lot of people have had these kind of brief encounters or moments in life that that aren't part of your real life.
I think my dad told me about always leave when it's a part that you like, so that you're excited to come back to it. Don't exhaust the good parts.
Just start it. So the idea, you don't wait for permission. You just do things, and hopefully people will follow. Yeah, I like making stories or kind of building an atmosphere from little moments and details, and not having to have a big dramatic plot.
No, I think you try different things, and when it feels right, when it fits as you're writing. I think you feel it when you like it, and when you don't, something's off, and then you keep working on it until it feels right. And I always think it's more interesting when the audience can fill in things and I also think people in life, like in movies, they always say their feelings, and I'm like, people don't say their feelings most of the time. So how do you show what they're feeling through what they don't say, or with the action with some behavior? And I'm so interested in the spaces in between, and what people, how they express themselves. But I feel like, a lot of times people don't really say what they're feeling directly. So I didn't want him to say it like, this all meant so much to me and it's changed my life. I think you convey that, and then the audience can put their own version of that in. But I do think, I think there's a balance though, because I don't know, when I made my first short film, you're trying not to be obvious, but then the audience it's not that clear, and you want people to understand what's going on. So I think if there's a way to be clear at the beginning so that the audience can attach to your story, but hopefully you can find other ways for them to express themselves. And I think observing in life how people do that. If you're at a family dinner and someone can say something that means something really different. So I think part of it comes from observing how people relate to each other. And a lot of times people aren't clear or don't express themselves directly, I think.
And my dad was always so heroic on set that, and so into being an artist and making it happen. So of course I admire that. There's a funny interview of my dad when I'm like 5 or 6 years old. He's interviewing me, asking me questions, and my mom walks through and she says, "Because you're Wonder Woman." You don't remember all your childhood memories, but that kind of, that was the attitude, that they were very encouraging. And I saw that my dad never gave up. He was always really persevered. And I don't know, lately I've been trying to start a film project, and I'm waiting for the company to give me the go-ahead. And he's like, just start it. So the idea, you don't wait for permission. You just do things, and hopefully people will follow.
How much of you is in this?
There's a lot of me in it. There's a lot of my personality and what I like and my experiences and what
It's
I've overheard.
all about that. Yeah, I mean, even in choice of Tokyo.
Yeah, and even the locations. That hotel is a hotel that I always stay at.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have let you shoot there, probably.
I think so.
But in what other way is this a reflection of you and who you are and what you're about and your sensitivities?
I think in the way the idea of the romantic aspect of it, what I think is romantic, and
what do you think is romantic?
And that I'm a romantic, and I was talking to Bill Murray, and he sees himself as a romantic, and I think that's what we put into the movie. But I don't know, it's kind of like I think in some ways more like an older romance from, I liked Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall.
And some of the movies of the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, it has a kind of innocent romantic feeling that I think is in there, but I don't know what it says about me, but it's a combination.
It reflects.
It's what I think is funny and what I think is beautiful,
and colors and
the music, and the mood.
Oh, I find writing the hardest part, and I procrastinate a lot, and it's really hard to be disciplined. And my friend Tamara Jenkins, who's a writer, told me about a program called, I think it's called Freedom, where it cuts off your internet so you can't get distracted. And but I don't know, when I get into something like with this, I went to the book and I started marking it up and then choosing what I wanted to keep and what I didn't want to include, and then I would kind of rough it out and then start. I really like using Final Draft because as soon as you start working at Final Draft, it looks like a script, so it's really exciting, and then it makes me want to keep going. And I figure you just have to, get enough to just to get through it. So for me, adapting is easier than writing an original script because you don't know where you're going. On this, I have a basic idea and something to work from, but I don't think I know like how many pages a day or how long it takes. I think once you kind of get excited about it, then I would get, excited to go back to it and get kind of obsessed with it. And I think my dad told me about always leave when it's a part that you like, so that you're excited to come back to it. Don't like exhaust the good parts. So leave it apart when it's going well. Leave at that point so that you're looking forward to coming back to it.
Yeah, I like making stories or kind of building an atmosphere from little moments and details, and not having to have a big dramatic plot. I don't even know if I would know how to do that if I tried. So I guess I just write the way that I know how to, or it makes sense to me, and it's just kind of collecting little moments and ideas, almost like a collage. Or I like to make photo books with reference photos, like a mood book when I'm writing the script. And I feel like I approach the screenplay the same way. I just put together moments and ideas, and then hopefully at the end it's enough for a movie.
Why Tokyo? You wrote the script, so you created Tokyo.
Yeah, I spent time there in my 20s, and it always made a great impression on me. There's nowhere like it that I've ever been to, and it's so strange and exciting, and I always wanted to do a film there. But, you just click with certain places, and to me, I met a lot of interesting, creative people there that got me into different music and photography, and it feels like a very exciting, modern city, and they're so into style, and the people
so
I met.
Compact.
Yeah, and it's just like, and the extremes of so modern, and then an ancient temple next to this neon craziness. But it's really like being on another planet. So, and
You started with characters, or did it start with?
I started with Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Yeah, it started with the idea of Tokyo. I wanted to shoot there, and also just my friend there was singing "God Save the Queen" and karaoke in Tokyo, and just the kind of combination of different cultures and Americans being there. And then within that, I wanted to do an intimate story between these two characters, and something romantic that is about a brief moment that you can meet someone and spend 2 days with them, and that can be just as important as someone you've known for a year.
Adapting material, and you mentioned that it was like a puzzle for you. And when you're doing that, is it an interpretation, or do you feel an obligation to feel true to the text, or how do you balance the kind of oath that you take with that story, right? Obviously, Virgin Suicides you were passionately drawn to, and so it's as if and I love that impulse too of like, I don't want somebody to screw this up. Like I know this, I don't want somebody else to screw it up. But how are you relating to the material and your vision of it?
Yeah, I think you're just looking at what you connect to and what you love about it. So I think the first time you go through and just underline parts that strike you, or and then it just kind of weeding away and editing out what you don't need, and how are you gonna convey it into story, and you take the dialogue and then kind of rework it. But I guess it's just going through and that's what feels like a puzzle, or it's like a game, like how are you gonna take this and make it into the visual version of it, and getting rid of things and combining characters, and but that has how to keep the essence of it, but you have to kind of reform it. And I think it's just about drawing out what you love about it and what could be told, or how to tell it in a visual way. Because sometimes it'll say the character's thinking this, so how do you show that? And that becomes sort of a puzzle to figure out. Do they say it to someone else, or can we show visual about what they're doing? And it's just how to change it into a visual.
Yeah, whenever I finish a film, but when I think about what the next one is, it's always a reaction to the one before it. Or I found, and that after Marie Antoinette was so kind of elaborate and decorative, I wanted to do like the most simple, minimal movie that I could, and Somewhere came out of that idea of how simply we could tell a story. And then after the Bling Ring was so in that kind of tabloid world, it was pretty ugly, and I really wanted to make something beautiful and in a really different mode. And when I started thinking about the story, picturing the setting of really shooting on location, and wanted to do something a little more
beautiful and elegant, hopefully, after that world. Yes, making this film was definitely a reaction to after I made Marie Antoinette. After all the decoration and all the people involved in Marie Antoinette, I wanted to make a movie as simply as possible and with as few people as possible and very minimal. So I set out when I was writing it to make a very minimal, simple story with the music is stark and everything about it. And also with Marie Antoinette, it was so much my feminine side and so girly that I wanted to write this story from a man's point of view.
Talk about music for you and where it comes into your process, and if it's written, are pieces written into the script? You know, was I Want Candy written into the script?
I think it was. I remember there's some lesson they tell you, like, never write it in the script because then they'll try to it'll cost too much because they'll know you need it in there. But I definitely have pieces of music in mind for certain sequences, and I know that's the fun part. I've always loved music and going to concerts when I was younger. So even when I did my first short, like part of putting the music together makes it kind of come alive and have energy, and and it conveys so much of the feeling. But so I've always, as I write, I'm listening to music. And when I was writing Virgin Suicides, I was listening to Air's for album, and that's when I thought, oh, maybe I could ask them to do the music for it, because it felt like this. I wanted the film to be a memory, not set in the 70s. So how to use contemporary music but to feel like this kind of dreamy memory feeling about it. So yeah, I think about the music and the visuals early on, and that kind of informs the tone, so all of my team we can all be on the same page of what the feeling is. And I even give music to the actors, and we play music on set. And like in Beguiled, I wanted to really be sparse and tense, and the lack of music, I think, gave a different feeling. And I also think in the editing room, Sarah Flack, the editor I always work with, who I love, we always try to cut the scenes without music and make it work, because I think whenever you put music on, it always makes the scene better. So I think that would be something I would just pass on as a good habit, to make your scene work without music, because it can be used kind of as a crutch too.
You talked at length about like the lessons your dad and your cinematic family has sort of imparted on you, but what are the things you had to like unlearn from them or shy away from doing to sort of create your own style?
Oh, that's a good question. I never thought about that, because I feel like I learned a lot just from being on set, and then things that my dad talked about. But when I set out to make my own film, it really came from what I was interested in, and so different, and my personality is so different. So I just thought about doing it in my own way, and there's a story. My dad came to set on my first movie and was saying, like, you need to say action louder. They need to know you're in charge. And I was like, well, this is how I'm going to do. So you have to find your own way of doing things. So, but I didn't ever feel intentionally. I mean, I would never make a gangster movie. I just, I would never go on. He's so as far as shying away, I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't take on material that he's the great master of. But I always felt like I was drawn. I do just try to do things, in what interests me, and how I relate to the world and how I would approach them.